Some horror movie monsters just won't seem to die, eternally coming back for more frights and compiling larger and larger body counts throughout the decades. Some have even been reinvented, rebooted, or simply passed on their brutal slaying ways onto the next successor. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 longest running horror franchises. Number 1, Puppet Master. Director David Schmoller and producer Charles Band introduced the world to the original Puppet Master in 1989, and the world of cinema was never the same. Okay, maybe the franchise didn't have that much of an impact, but hey, killer puppets. Not to say the original is bad, there have been more than a few glimmers of light amongst the 11 mainline films, the crossover brawl with demonic toys, the 2018 reboot Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, and the 2 spin-offs. The Puppet Master franchise never had a theatrical installment. The entirety of Puppet Master's success is due to sick weirdos buying, renting, or streaming these B-horror slasher flicks. And that's not an insult. I'm one of those sick weirdos. Those are our people. This series follows an assorted array of various living puppets created by the puppeteer Andre Toulon, who is a prominent figure throughout the series. The most iconic puppet from the franchise, the puppet's leader and poster boy, is called Blade, and I'll give you 3 guesses why he's called that. Wouldn't it be great if Wesley Snipes voiced him? Regardless, him and Pinhead, no, not the infamous Cenobite, are the only 2 puppets allegedly to appear in every single film. If you're a fan of B films with murderous puppets, boy do I have a franchise for you. And you can catch the original on Peacock, Tubi, Pluto, Plex, Freevee, Sling, Redbox, and Prime. Number 2, Halloween. At this point, Halloween has got to be one of the most rebooted franchises in film. John Carpenter originally conceived Halloween as an anthology series, in which some different standalone horror happens in every Halloween film. Carpenter allegedly got drunk and wrote the script for Halloween 2, even regretting making Laurie Strode Michael Myers' sister, as it puts a damper on Michael's mystique. Halloween 3 was the first and only sequel in the anthology series, which was a sloppy film that unfortunately killed any chance at an anthology series. Halloween 4 continued 10 years after number 2, acting as kind of a soft reboot with Laurie Strode out of the picture and her daughter, Jamie Lloyd, being the protagonist. Then in 1998, after Halloween's Thorn storyline ultimately failed, the series started over again. Sort of. Ignoring Halloween 3 as well as 4 through 6. Halloween H2O was a commendable effort, bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back into the fold. Unfortunately, H2O's sequel, Halloween Resurrection, ironically killed that timeline. Cut to 2007, where a complete overhaul took place for Halloween with Rob Zombie's remake. Although undeniably brutal, it was panned by critics and snubbed by audiences. But it made enough money to greenlight a sequel, which managed to perform far worse with critics and lose money. Over a decade later, horror movie maven Jason Blum got the rights and produced the best sequel in the entire franchise with Halloween 2018, which ignored every previous Halloween film sans the original. Unfortunately, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends had diminishing returns. Although, I will stand by my claim that Halloween Ends is still a better end than Halloween 6 Resurrection and even H2. It still was not good though. Regardless, in 2027, maybe, we're looking at another reboot of Halloween. There isn't much information about it currently, but another Halloween was inevitable. Jamie Lee Curtis recently said she hasn't closed the door on another return to the franchise. I'll get flack for this, and I will preface this with that I think Jamie Lee Curtis is great, but she shouldn't return to the franchise. And Laurie Strode was never a compelling enough of a character to return as many times as she had. That being said, Jason Blum also said he would not be producing any more Halloween films, and the rights would return to Malik Akkad. But you can catch out the entire franchise on Zumo, Plex, AMC Plus, Fubo, Sling, Prime, Philo, Google Play, Apple TV, and Fandango. Number 3, Friday the 13th. The original 1980 Friday the 13th boasts so many things like an iconic score, visceral low-budget cinematography, and innovative practical gore effects thanks to legendary gore wizard Tom Savini. Not to mention, the killer reveal was quite sharp. Every time I rewatch it, I find it moves slowly. But that's really the biggest downside. Friday the 13th, which was initially written off as a Halloween knockoff capitalizing on its success, which was director Sean Cunningham's intent, it stood out thanks to all of the aforementioned elements, plus the campground setting. The story is simple. Several camp counselors resembling various character archetypes are preparing Camp Crystal Lake for its reopening, in which was dubbed Camp Blood. Around 20 years prior, a boy named Jason Voorhees drowned in the lake because of negligent campers who were engaging in the cardinal sin of premarital sex. These would be tropes that all of the rest of the series would help solidify in the pantheon of 80s slasher films. When it came to the Friday the 13th series, Jason Voorhees typically stalks and lumbers, but Paramount pulled no punches with what they intended Friday the 13th, the final chapter, to be the final installment of their popular franchise. Jason Voorhees is near his iconic aesthetic in part 4. The film is the first one that truly recognized Jason as a star, so there is less of Jason in the shadows, and he is more of a locomotive than before. Part 4 is also notable for introducing fan favorite final guy, here a dorky 12-year-old, Tommy Jarvis, played by a promising 80s child actor Corey Feldman. Friday the 13th Part 4 also introduces us to Trish Jarvis, Tommy's older sister as well as final girl. Tommy would survive this, and the film implies he might be the next Jason Voorhees. Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, steered the series in a different direction as it saw Tommy Jarvis, now 17, played by John Shepard, in a halfway house, having visions of Jason Voorhees haunting him. The iconic version of Tommy is played by Tom Matthews in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This is the Tommy that sports a denim jacket and shotgun while actively going after Jason Voorhees. He became so popular, he's actually the main character in most Friday the 13th media. By Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, Paramount had effectively killed their franchise and sold it to New Line Cinema, who would produce Jason 9 through 10 as well as Freddy vs. Jason. However, you can catch the original film on Pluto, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 4, Hellraiser. 1987's Hellraiser from Clive Barker, who wrote the novel the film is adapted from, is a twisted, atmospheric gore fest that deftly explores the concept of pleasure and pain while introducing horror icon Pinhead, played by the scene-stealing Doug Bradley. The original had a group of Cenobites, which are released when the puzzle box is open to perform extreme sadomasochistic acts that Pinhead was a part of. But Pinhead became the icon of the franchise, thanks to his striking look, his penetrating baritone voice, and a sizzling performance from Bradley. The Leviathan was not introduced until 1988's Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. Considering it's the ruler of the underworld with powers that make the Cenobites look like parlor tricks, as it didn't just create them, but can literally make one relive past memories with its black beam of light. Doug Bradley would reprise his role as the infamous Pinhead for 7 more sequels. The 4th installment, Hellraiser Bloodline, which is the first one I saw coincidentally, was also the last one to receive a theatrical release. But you can check this out over on Tubi, Pluto, Philo, AMC Plus, Google Play, Fandango, Sling, Redbox, and Prime. Number 5, Saw. The original Saw hit theaters over 20 years ago in 2004 and has since become a classic. The film spawned 9 sequels and counting, as well as many imitators. Saw actually holds the record for the most consecutive years in a row a film from a series has been released, as a new Saw film came out every year from 2004 to 2010, Saw 1 through Saw 7. This record doesn't count cinematic universe films like the MCU. Saw pushed innovations on gore and even popularized a whole subgenre, torture porn. Before Saw became an influential classic, it was just a visceral and shocking thriller with one of the most iconic twists since perhaps The Sixth Sense 5 years earlier. The original Saw takes place primarily in a dingy, poorly lit room in which 2 guys are chained to metal pipes, and a third is dead on the floor. Most of the narrative is in flashbacks, with the characters trying to piece together why they are trapped there together. They come to the conclusion that the whole setup resembles the MO of the Jigsaw Killer. The Jigsaw Killer is infamous for placing people in lethal traps in which they have to do some sort of bodily harm within a time limit in order to escape. Every subsequent film in the franchise places characters in more and more elaborate escape room settings, usually with the cop's story as well as Jigsaw, aka John Kramer's, paralleling it. The infamous Jigsaw is played by Tobin Bell, who absolutely kills this role and has even become somewhat of an anti-hero. And you can watch the original classic Saw on Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. If you're really enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Number 6, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Legendary horror filmmaker Wes Craven introduced us to iconic 80s slasher villain Freddy Krueger in his 1984 classic horror film, A Nightmare on Elm Street. A group of teens have started to see the same horrendously burned man with razor blade gloves in their dreams. He stalks and attacks them in their nightmares, and they consequently wake up with injuries in the real world. When Tina dies, having been elevated in the air by some unseen force and slashed across the torso, her best friend Nancy Thompson starts uncovering the truth with her boyfriend, played by a young, wide-eyed Johnny Depp, that Freddy Krueger was in fact a real person exacting the revenge on the children of those who murdered him. This series boils down to good versus evil, as Wes Craven grew up as a fairly sheltered Catholic, and that iconography certainly is most prominent in the original film. In one memorable scene, Freddy Krueger appears to be trying to travel from the dream world to the real world through the protagonist Nancy's wall. The emblematic scene in the series in which the indentation of Freddy's face is pressed on the wall. In doing so, he knocks off Nancy's cross, but it also seems to prevent him from crossing over. In the lore, Freddy Krueger was once a mortal man, known as the Springwood Slasher. In A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, we learned he was born of a nun who was raped by men in an insane asylum. He was dubbed the bastard son of 1,000 maniacs. In A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master, we learn the more souls he has, the more powerful he is. Part 3 and Freddy vs. Jason confirm that his power is also derived from being known and feared. In Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, it's explained that dream gods granted Freddy his powers because he has a truly evil soul. So at best, he can only be eliminated temporarily. Otherwise, he has godlike, albeit fluctuating powers, particularly over the domain on the dream world. So, don't sleep on Freddy. You can watch him over on Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Number 7, Child's Play. Chucky, the infamous killer doll, made his first appearance in the 1988 slasher film Child's Play. The original film sees notorious killer Charles Lee Ray, also known as the Lakeshore Strangler, on the run in the midst of a shootout with the cops. After being shot in the leg and his ride ditching him, he ducks into a toy store. He's shot again, fatally, by the cops while in the toy store. Charles, having been taught voodoo, prays to the god Damballa and transfers his soul into one of the popular good guy dolls on the shelf. Charles, or Chucky, in doll form, is given as a birthday present to a young boy named Andy, played by Alex Vincent. The longer Chucky stays in the body of the doll, the more human he becomes. His soul will eventually be trapped in that body, and since Andy is the first person that Chucky let in on a secret, he has to transfer his soul into Andy's body. The core story for Child's Play 1 through 3 is Chucky trying to become Andy, while murdering anyone he can. Child's Play 3 sees Andy as a 16-year-old sent to military school, played for the first and only time as Justin Wallen. All subsequent films and TV seasons see the lore expand, new prominent characters introduced, and involve even more good guy dolls. Don Mancini, the architect and creator of the franchise, has wrote every single film in this franchise. He is also the showrunner for the hit TV series Chucky. So go see Child's Play on Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 8, Tremors. Tremors was Ron Underwood's feature directorial debut and was released in 1990 as a modest hit and critical darling that would become a cult juggernaut in the home market. Writing partners S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock would go on to write 3 of the Tremors sequels. This would end their tenure on the franchise, having written Tremors 1 through 4, having crafted most of the lore. The original film follows Val McKee and Earl Bassett ready to leave town when they stumble across some mysterious deaths. Val is played by Kevin Bacon, who's so prolific, a whole concept, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, was popularized by him. The idea is he's been in so many different things, you'll be able to probably link him to someone by going through up to 6 people, but I digress. Earl Bassett is played by Fred Ward, who I'll admit I know best as DJ Qualls' overbearing father in Road Trip. In Tremors, a seismologist picks up unusual tremors, which turns out to be caused by giant worms of the sort. They become so much more as the series progresses. The entire series are creature features. Kevin Bacon is also only in the first installment, whereas Ward reprises his role for the 1996 straight-to-video sequel. The first 2 are definitely the best anyway, and you can experience Tremors on Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Number 9, The Living Dead. 10 years after George A. Romero redefined the zombie genre and changed horror with his 1968 classic, Night of the Living Dead, he released just as classic follow-up, Dawn of the Dead. The original's old-school black and white aesthetic harkened back to horror of a bygone era. Its brutally authentic gore and blistering politics reflected a time of turmoil, as well as a new age of cinema. Romero's follow-up, Dawn of the Dead, pushed the envelope even further. This script was every bit as smart as Night, but with a bigger budget, the filmmakers were able to do more. They upped the gore while unabashedly satirized rampant consumerism. In the original, the dead rose because of radiation from Venus reflected off of our satellites. However, in Dawn of the Dead, the reason was given that hell was full, so the dead rose. This created a supernatural reason for the zombies that forces the viewers to examine the amount of evil that plagues humanity. By 1985's Day of the Dead, humanity was experimenting on zombies. 2005's Land of the Dead sees humanity build a castle system, with the dead being bottom rung. In this film, the dead evolve. 2007's Diary of the Dead follows a group of film students who run into zombies. This was Romero's found footage type film. The final, Night of the Living Dead, Survival of the Dead, follows scavengers searching for anything they can in a world overrun by zombies. But you can catch the original 1968 classic on Peacock, Max, Tubi, Pluto, Philo, Plex, Freevee, MGM Plus, Stars, AMC Plus, Sling, Prime, Fandango, and Google Play. Number 10, Scream. Scream remains a fan favorite even today for its clever twists, superb satire, great characters, memorable quotes, taut suspense, and ruthless kills, which the franchise has remained consistently good at through Scream 6. Scream was a cultural phenomenon in 1996, ushering in a slasher revival and a shift in horror. While it was a true thriller and iconic slasher, it was also a razor-sharp satire of the slasher subgenre. Scream worked within the familiar framework of the 80s slasher tropes, while constantly flipping them on their heads. The scares came as much as the laughs. One of the reasons Scream was so monumental was that it didn't just subvert expectations within the film, but also outside the film in its marketing and casting. Prior to Scream, you didn't see a slasher film with a cast full of rising stars from television shows, let alone a bona fide A-lister like Drew Barrymore. The trailers treated Scream like a serious thriller led by Drew Barrymore. The open sequence alone shocked audiences as it played homage to When a Stranger Calls, and is still to this day considered one of the best openings in horror. Most firsts in a series are the best. In the case of Scream, it's ahead by a hair, as it has some tough competition amongst its sequels. Out of the 6 films, all but number 3 have received varying levels of positive reviews. Scream 3's were merely mixed. Even with that, it makes it one of the best reviewed horror series of all times. It also lands in the top 10 highest grossing horror franchises with $912 million worldwide, not adjusted for inflation, and the highest grossing slasher series of all time. And you can stream the classic on Max, Sling, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.